الله 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 ما لي رب إلا هو الله 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 ما لي رب إلا هو.
The Janazah of the deceased who was not given ghusl. Written by Khalifa of Taj al-Shari'ah and al-Muhaddith al-Kabir, grandson of Sadr al-Shari'ah, al-Faqih al-Azim, Mufti Faizan ul-Mustafa Qadiri. May Allah preserve him. What do the scholars of the religion and the jurists of Islamic law say regarding the following issue? In current times, the coronavirus has appeared as an epidemic for which all of the leaders throughout the world have taken many strict measures in hopes of ending this epidemic. These strict measures have brought up many issues regarding the funeral, shrouding, burial, and funeral prayer for someone who dies due to the coronavirus. Kindly give a response through the light of the pure Sharia to the questions written below. Question number 1. If a Muslim dies from the coronavirus and after the death, the government seals the body in such a way that it is not permitted to open the seal even to give the ritual bath, then what will be the ruling for the ghusl and the salatul janazah of the deceased in this situation? Question number 2. Furthermore, will the Muslims of that community be sinful for leaving a communal obligation? Question number 3. Many states have also made it a law that every individual must always keep a distance of 6 feet from others. Since the government has made this rule general and inclusive of the salatul janazah congregation, then in this situation, where all the individuals of the congregation keep a distance of 6 feet from each other, what is the ruling for performing the salatul janazah? The answer by the help of the king, the bestower. Answer number 1. If the hospital staff or the government of the community for some reason do not give the deceased body in the possession of the relatives, and therefore it is not possible to give ghusl to the body, then it is excused because every ruling depends on the possibility of the act. However, the obligation of ghusl is not excused because of this compulsion until the deceased is completely buried. Therefore, if the salatul janazah was performed before giving the ghusl, then it will not be valid because the purification of the deceased is a condition for the validity of the salatul janazah. It is stated in An-Nahr al-Fa'iq, if the Muslims were not able to give ghusl and the non-Muslim hospital staff or management pour pure water over the body of the deceased, then the body will become pure. The pouring of that amount of water is a condition for the validity. Therefore, in this situation, it is mandatory upon the Muslims to ask for permission to flow pure water over the deceased body at least once. If such a ghusl is given, then the salatul janazah that is performed after it is valid. Otherwise, the salatul janazah will be performed after the burial. It is stated in al-Mukhtar, it is stated in al-Mukhtar, it is stated in al-Mukhtar, it is stated in al-Bahr al-Ra'iq, it is stated in An-Nahr al-Fa'iq, it is also stated here that there are 2 aspects for doing ghusl of the deceased. 1. Purity of the deceased body, and 2. The ghusl being given by Muslims. The first aspect is enough for the validity of the salatul janazah. Therefore, Sayyiduna ala Hazrat radiyallahu anhu states in Jadul Muhtar, it is clear through the mentioned points that if the salatul janazah was performed before giving the ghusl of the deceased, or the salah wasn't performed at all, then in both cases the salatul janazah will be performed on the grave after the burial. In the first case, there isn't any repetition since the first salah was not even valid. The obligation of performing the salah on the grave remains until it is believed that the body of the deceased has been ruined. If the Salatul Janazah was performed even once properly, then there will be no need to repeat it. Allah knows best. Answer number 2. Now, regarding whether the Muslims give ghusl to the deceased body. If they were able to give ghusl to the body without any trouble, but no one from amongst the Muslims gave the ghusl, then the entire Muslim community will be sinful. Since the ghusl is a communal obligation, it will now be mandatory for all the Muslims to repent and ask for their forgiveness. Now, if the Muslims had tried their best to gain control in order to give ghusl to the deceased body, but were unable to, then it is excused in this case because every obligation depends on the possibility of its completion, and every ruling is according to the potentiality. Allah Almighty says, La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah doesn't burden any soul except with what it is capable of. Answer number 3. Although the Salatul Janazah will be valid, the Salah of the Imam and the Muqtadi who is standing in the first row exactly behind the Imam will not have any karaha, while the Salah of the other people who stand distant from each other in the congregation will have karaha. This is because even if a single baligh Muslim performs a Salatul Janazah, then the obligation will be fulfilled. Like how it is stated in ul-Mukhtar, Radul Muhtar, those individuals who stand 6 feet away from each other in a single row during the salah, their salah will be valid, but it will necessitate karaha for establishing such a row that is unlawful. However, they are not obliged to repeat the Salatul Janazah due to this karaha, since it isn't permitted to repeat the salah in this case. Furthermore, if the government rules are strict, then it will not even be sinful to deliberately establish such an unlawful row. As far as the issue of keeping a distance of 6 feet between two rows, there is no karaha in this. Allah knows best. Written by Mufti Faizan al-Mustafa Qadiri. May Allah preserve him. Verified by Mumtaz al-Fuqaha al-Muhaddith al-Kabir Sayyiduna al-Mufti Ziya al-Mustafa al-Amjadi. May Allah preserve him.